Hello everybody and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today we're doing a little bit of some movie talk and some movie talk news, as we have a couple of major films that are set to re-release in theaters very soon. One of them being, of course, one of my favorite films of all time, Casablanca. The other being The Godfather for its 50th anniversary. And so it's an amazing time that we live in, where the most excitement that I think me and many other people have for any of the films that are being released in theaters over the past month or so, other than Spider-Man No Way Home, has and is classic films that came out 50 to 80 years ago. And I think that speaks a lot to the current state of Hollywood, to the current state of entertainment. And I think that a lot of this ties into some recent news of certain films from Disney locking releases in China, and why I think it's important for us to keep that into perspective and to bring that up in this overall discussion, because I think it is incredibly relevant to what the modern age of Hollywood is and what the major players, or rather what the major motivations for Hollywood elites, especially Disney, is when it comes to box office receipts. So before going any further, though, into this video, please make sure you smash that like button, line up that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey, and also make sure that you are subscribed to the channel with that bell notification turned on. That way you know every time a new video or live stream goes live on the channel. So as you can see, Casablanca is coming back to theaters, courtesy of Fathom Events and Turner Classic Movies. Fathom Events, I have a love-hate relationship with Fathom Events because, for one, they bring back classic films to the screen, which is always an amazing and awesome thing. However, the other issue, or rather the issue that I have with Fathom Events, is that they typically charge an absurd amount of money for the experience, especially when they're bringing back classic films and the only real additions or added stuff that you really get with the movie is maybe an introduction by a host. It's not worth actually spending that extra bit of money for, especially since Casablanca is available not only on Blu-ray everywhere, but also available on 4K. So there really is little reason to charge as much money as they are for films like Casablanca or other classic films or other older film releases to come back. It's something where it just boggles my mind, because you look at what theaters did over the last couple of years, right? When they were forced to shut down, and then when they were allowed to reopen, and so many movies were being pushed back and being canceled left and right. And what did they do? They had to innovate, and they had to say, okay, let's show a bunch of older films. We're going to lower the cost because we can, because these have already had their releases, and it just all made sense. But then anytime Fathom Events gets their hand on any of these properties, as far as like classic films to be re-released, they always charge way too much, in my opinion, for these films. They charge at the very least the basic ticket price of a new film release, and sometimes they even charge a premium. And as I said, the only real addition that you might get in your experience is some type of introduction. And in this case, you actually get pre and post film commentary presented by Ben Mankiewicz. Yes, obviously I know that Ben Mankiewicz is the new host of Turner Classic Movies. He also happens to be very much tied to the Young Turks. So it's not something that I really think is worth paying a premium price for, when the only additional stuff you get is a pre and post commentary by a person associated with the Young Turks. That's just what I had to say about that. But anyway, let's go into this bit of news, though. This was just reported the other day. It says, Fathom Events is partnering with Turner Classic Movies and Warner Brothers to bring Casablanca back to the big screen for its 80th anniversary. It's insane. 80 years since Casablanca came out, and man, oh man, how far films have fallen. The special anniversary screenings, which will include extensive pre- and post-film commentary presented by TCM host Ben Mankiewicz, are set to take place on January 23rd and January 26th. So that'll be at the end of January that you'll be able to experience that. But rather, actually, no, sorry, you'll be able to experience that this weekend and going into next week. So 2 days for this. But again, be ready to pay a bit of a premium. And when it says extensive pre- and post-film commentary, again, I kind of question exactly how much extra commentary that's going to be, and also how much different that would be from you just watching it on Turner Classic Movies, where they do pre- and post-film commentary. And as I said before, Ben Mankiewicz, he might be a film guy, and he might be a film historian. However, I have issues with the connections that he has outside of his TCM job. It says that tickets can be purchased on Fathom Events. The Casablanca, which stars Humphrey Bogart, Ingrid Bergman, won Oscar for Best Picture, Director, and Adapted Screenplay. It's one of the first films chosen by the U.S. Library of Congress for preservation in the National Film Registry, as it should, because it is one of the greatest films of all time. Another film that is set to be released in a special edition. So again, you have Fathom Events putting this out, and I assume that other than the commentary, it's just going to be a regular release. So a regular high-quality release. Here's what The Godfather's doing. Godfather Anniversary, 50th Anniversary re-release to arrive in AMC theaters on February 25th in Dolby Vision. So they have adapted this, I'm assuming, or done some type of, purposing or not repurposing. Basically, I'm guessing they've done some type of scans of the original print negative to be able to create it for the Dolby Vision experience. And so this seems like it's actually going to be an experience. And since it is going to be partnering with AMC, it means that you'll probably be able to get this for at least a regular ticket price. And, who knows, if you decide to go see this, at certain times, and again, let's see exactly what times are going to be offered here, you might actually be able to get to see this for maybe half of what they're going to charge for Casablanca, which is just an insane thing, especially since this is going to be offered in a much more premium format. I really wish that they were doing this for Casablanca, but unfortunately they're not. So in celebration of The Godfather's 50th anniversary, Paramount will re-release the Francis Ford Coppola classic in limited AMC theaters locations in Dolby Vision starting February 25th, 2022. Unfortunately, that means I won't be able to see it because there are no Dolby Visions in Chattanooga or in the Chattanooga area. The film will also be re-released in international territories. In advance of the 50th anniversary of the film's first original release on March 24th, 1972, Paramount and Coppola's production company, American Zoetrope, restored all three Godfather films over the course of 3 years. The entire trilogy will be made available in 4K for the first time on March 22nd, 2022. So that's pretty awesome and exciting. I know that set has been going on sale every now and then too. I want to say at one point I saw it for like 30 or 40 bucks, which even though they're older films, to get, this trilogy, or really duology, let's just be honest here, because that third one is just not very good, on 4K for that kind of a deal is pretty darn awesome. As it says here, during the restoration process, which was overseen by Coppola, over 30 cartons of film were scrutinized to find the best possible resolution for each frame. More than 4,000 hours were spent repairing film stains, tears, and other anomalies in the negatives, while over 1,000 hours were spent on color correction to restore the films to Coppola and cinematographer Gordon Willis's original vision. In addition to the 5.1 audio that was approved by the film's sound designer, Walter Murch, during a 2007 restoration, the original mono tracks of The Godfather and 1 and 2 have also been restored. So again, I'm reading this and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. This sounds really cool. For someone who's a physical media collector, for someone who loves and is all about preservation of films, this to me is exciting. This to me actually says, hey, I would actually really want and might even be tempted to drive out of my way to find the closest theater, the closest Dolby theater to me to actually go see this movie. Again, the fact that it was overlooked by the director, the fact that it went through so much extensive, finding of the best quality films, the best quality stock, just makes me that much more excited. So I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, this is a 50-year release being put out, right, in 4K, restoration, all this stuff happening going on right now. And then you have Casablanca being put out by Turner Classic and Fathom Events, which is going to be, again, overcharged. And the only additional thing you're getting is, some commentary by Ben Mankiewicz. Okay. Extra commentary by Ben Mankiewicz. Actually get to see this in Dolby Cinema with a actual re-release and, again, a actual new scan of the film. Painstaking new scan of the film in detail here. Well, one, this makes me want to actually get that 4K set. That makes me very, very excited for it. But also makes me want to actually go see this in theaters to experience it in an actual Dolby Cinema screen. If you've never seen a film in Dolby Vision before, I highly recommend it. It's, if you thought IMAX was cool, it's nothing compared to Dolby. It's the best way to see a film, and I really miss my old theater back down in New Orleans, and unfortunately, they just don't have them in the area here. Now, we'll go ahead and contrast these older classic films, right? Some really awesome, exciting stuff going on here to what's going on with Disney. Now, as you all know, Death on the Nile is one of my anticipated films of the year because I liked the last film that came out. I think Kenneth Branagh is a very talented director. I think he's a very talented actor as well. And here, of course, though, raises one of the biggest issues that I have with modern-day Hollywood, modern-day filmmaking, and with Disney specifically. Death on the Nile, to set sail for China in close step with start of global rollout. It's interesting to me that out of all of the studios, right? Obviously, Warner Brothers is another one of the studios that works really close with the Chinese Communist Party of China. Disney, I think, is the most egregious of them all. And it just is so incredibly infuriating to see news like this, when all I can think about is where the money made from this film in China is going to go to. Keep in mind, some people say, you're being so harsh on China. The Chinese people, they deserve entertainment too. Yes, they do. They also deserve freedom. And the problem with companies like Disney working with China, trying to get some type of money from them, expecting to get mass amounts of profits from them in whatever deal they're working out with, they failed to recognize and failed to realize that all they are doing is they are enabling the Chinese Communist Party to, one, keep their power, and two, enable the Communist Party to continue to keep their people in the dark of what's really going on and what the reality of the situation actually is. The reason why they're able to keep control is because they literally control everything. So much so that even CBR, right, even shill media have to admit this. Things start to make sense when the Communist Party's centennial is taken into consideration. The government has effectively ordered theaters to screen at least 2 propaganda films a week for the entire year. More than that, the state has cracked down more intensely on entertainment and what audiences are allowed to enjoy in film, TV, books, etc. The goal is to promote ideology the government approves of, and the kind of individualism, idolization, and creative license that Hollywood productions tend to promote do not fall in line with any of that. However, that's not to say that foreign films are no longer allowed. As successful as Chinese films such as The Battle of Lake Changjin have been, the government still recognizes the economic value of Hollywood features. The issue, of course, is that No Way Home has not gotten a release in China. The reason why, in my opinion, is because Sony is the distributor of the film. Now, Sony has done workings with China in the past. However, in this specific case, there seems to be a bit of a holdup. Now, one could argue saying that there's a lot of factors into it. It could just be that the film hasn't been approved by the censors, or there's a lot of factors that could be at play with why this film has not gotten the release. But when I look at this, and I think to myself, if Disney were in charge, if Disney had full control of this project, because remember, as many people as try to always say it's a Marvel film, they only put 25% of the budget for this film. All right, Sony put 75% of the budget for this film. People love to say Kevin Feige was a producer. Yes, so was Amy Pascal. So you had equal representation as far as the main producers of the film. Sony had the biggest to gain from this because they had the biggest investment in the film itself. So even though Marvel and executives from Marvel had input into this film, you cannot deny that Sony had a lot of control over this film, especially by the fact of them bringing Sony-specific characters back, and that was the most exciting part of it. It wasn't the MCU connections. It wasn't the connections and the characters brought from the MCU or the Marvel characters brought from the Disney Marvel productions. It was the Sony characters. It was the Sony characters. And if you have not seen the film yet at this point, after, over a month at this point, small spoiler warning, it was bringing back people like Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. That is what got people hyped for this film, was the rumors and speculation, and what got people going back. And what's going to lead to people buying this film on Blu-ray, on 4K, on DVD. Most of which, again, those sales are going to be going to Sony. So I look at this news and I say, if Disney was in charge, I don't have any doubt in my mind that they would have worked out a way for this film to show. Now, some might say, well, they had 3 other MCU films and they, also had struggles to get in China. But then you look at what those films are dealing with, and then you look at, obviously, the state of the world when those films were coming out, and it helps you to recognize why China probably would not have prioritized those films to be released, especially the one that was going to be in the best scenario, to have the best case and the best situation overall. Eternals was directed by Chloe Zhao, who has said some unkind things about the Communist Party in the past, and so that film was pretty much, again, dead on arrival in a lot of ways. But if Disney was in charge of this film, as massive as this film is, that they would have worked out some deal with China. So when I look at them working out deals with even smaller films like Death on the Nile, and then you take into account what, again, even CBR has to admit about how the government controls their people through propaganda and controls their people through all of this nonsense, it makes you scratch your head and say, why are Hollywood studios, and again, this goes to all the Hollywood studios, but most especially studios like Disney, which seem to be kind of like the main propagators of this. I put Warner Brothers up there too. I mean, keep in mind that Disney got into hot water because in their filming of, this is where they got called out for it, in their filming of the movie Mulan, there actually was a connection made in the credits of that movie with Uyghur concentration camps, and actually put that into the spotlight. And then what happened with our 24-hour news cycle? People stopped talking about it. It's important to bring up, and I bring it up all the time, and the reason why is because I cannot, in good conscience, allow this concept and allow this knowledge to simply die. China is restricting its people in so many ways. We think things are bad here in the States with the restrictions and the lockdowns. Imagine being told what films you can watch, what books you're allowed to enjoy, to such a degree that even major concept films, simply because they have, quote, Western values in them, are either not allowed in your country at all or are severely censored. And Disney, being a major studio that works with China, is more than willing to change, adapt, cut anything that the Chinese censors deem to be offensive or deem to be not in line with the government propaganda. So that's why I'm pointing this out. And again, you look at films like Casablanca, and even though I've got issues with the release going on here with Ben Mankiewicz and, again, the overcharging of Fathom events in general, but then you also look to The Godfather, right? Classic films, 50, 80 years. You look at how much work was done. You look at just the passion of the filmmakers. And then you compare that to modern-day Hollywood. And the remakes, the reboots, capitulation to the Chinese communist. You look at a film like Casablanca, in the wake of World War II, the messages that it had about freedom, about liberty, and then you look at what Disney's doing now, to me, it is a dichotomy that I just cannot ignore, and I hope and pray that we all start to wake up more to the fact and try and do the most that we possibly can to call this nonsense out as often as we can. Anyway, those are my thoughts on this. Again, bit of a mixed bag here today with, again, two exciting re-releases. Casablanca, I'm more excited for The Godfather, though, based on how much work was actually put into the re-release and how much it will likely cost to actually go and see the film. And obviously, we can talk about Scream's box office and blah, blah, blah. But again, I think that this news about them working out a deal with China is just something I had to talk about. And again, this right here, if this doesn't wake you up to why China is an evil government regime, I really honestly don't know what else will. But anyway, let me know your thoughts about this and anything else I mentioned in the comment section below. If you like this video, smash that like button, loud that fire button over on Odyssey. You're all amazing, beautiful people. Thank you also to my newest Patreon members, Jonathan, and as of this morning, Hymir, Ari, Hymason. You're all amazing, beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my January Patreon Subscribe Star and Locals members. Starting first off with Locals, shout out to Kara Tharp, UAB Mad Dog, Mike Jackson, Biffer DeHobbit, and Robert Barnes. Thank you all very much for supporting me over on the Locals platform. Also a shout out to my Subscribe Star people, UAB Mad Dog, Mike Jackson once again, Storm Tracker, The R, Fast Reaction, Nosferatu Gatsu, Stand 4, John B, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss / the new number 2, J-Rod the Beer Guru, and ZK-Man. Thank you all very much for supporting me over on the Subscribe Star platform. And lastly, to my Patreon supporters, my 30 Patreon supporters over there, animation commentator Brandon, let's go Brandon, Brian P., Christopher Bowman, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you Father, Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, Hannibal Grimm, Harold Francis, Inflamed Wood, Jacob Juice, Jeffrey Toone, Joe Horn, Jonathan Carney, Gomer Kyle, 79, Lance, Laura, The Modern Major General Story, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mondo Spieler, Mr. Peabody, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Priscilla Hall, Rosetta Ellen, Stan Andrian, Miss Martin Muses, Theodore Benden, and Tina Bojan, and of course, Tina B., the Empress of the Universe. Thank you all so very much for your love and for your support. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and at the end of every video, please make sure that you support me over on a Patreon Subscribe Star or on Locals. Also, you get a ton of other goodies if you support at the Army of Asgard level and above. Starting at the Army of Asgard level, you get access to various giveaways that I do during the month, including various 4K titles. Many of them 4K Steelbook titles, and so if you want access to that, check out the Army of Asgard level on those platforms specifically. You also get access, once you are a Keeper of the Bifrost level member, to that, plus a podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger, where you actually get to ask us questions, and also, of course, get access to that and the library of previous podcast episodes. We're up to about 33 episodes now that we have been able to do. I think most of those episodes now at this point we've actually done it together, which has been a lot of fun. And of course, you can join at the Chosen of Valhalla live stream, Chosen of Valhalla live stream level, where you get access to not only all of those things, but also you get access to be featured on the channel once a month during the Chosen of Valhalla live stream with the other Chosen members, which is always a lot of fun. Also, during your first month, you get a free t-shirt sent anywhere in the world. You just let me know your size, let me know the t-shirt that you want from the store, over on Teespring or on TeePublic, whichever you prefer, and I will gladly send that out to you if you're at that level. Anyway, you guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, God bless.